So today I'm going to be making some healthy freezer meals. You are not going to want to miss this episode. So yesterday I put together a meal plan. I did all my shopping and I'm going to show you how I prep this stuff and get it all ready for freezer meals to last me all week long. This is going to make my weight loss program super simple. I'm not going to have to think about anything. And I have a lot going on this week, so the last thing I want to be thinking about is food. So the first meal I'm going to put together is a low-carb taco soup. So this is super simple. I'm actually going to be cooking this over the stove tonight. So I'm just going to put everything in my pot. I'm going to be busy for a good part of the day today. So I'm going to put my soup together, stick it in the fridge, and then tonight when I get back, I'm just going to throw it on the stove for about maybe 35 minutes. Everything's already cooked, so it's going to make it really easy. So we're going to start off by adding about 1.5 cups of cooked ground beef. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Actually, I'll probably put in 2 cups. It calls for 1 pound. And so I'm going to go ahead and put in 2 cups of ground beef. Then I'm going to put in a can of diced tomatoes. I'm going to put in some chopped cilantro. So I'm probably going to use like 1/2 of a bunch. One of the easiest ways I found to do cilantro is just to use some scissors and just kind of cut it up. It works really well. If you prefer to chop it, whatever works for you. I use the stems and everything. I don't just use the leaves. I know some people only use the leaves, but there's a lot of flavor in the stems. So I've got about 1/2 of a bunch here that I just washed it. Then I'm going to add some seasonings to this. I want to put in about 1 tablespoon of chili powder. And I'm going to put in 1 tablespoon of cumin. And about 1 tablespoon of powdered garlic. If you prefer minced garlic, you go ahead. I love powdered garlic. It's so easy and it works out so good. So, all right. And to that, we're going to put in about 1 cup of chopped onions. And then last but not least, we're going to put in a nice handful of cheddar cheese. Now, after this is all cooked, actually that's not last but not least, but we're going to put in about 1 handful of cheese, just like that. That's going to cook down with our soup, and you can always add a little bit more cheese after this is cooked as well. So the last thing I'm going to add is some beef broth. Had a little bit of beef crumbles from the ones I cooked up from yesterday, so that will work out perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick this in the refrigerator outside, and this will be dinner tonight. I'm going to cook it up, like I said, for about 35-40 minutes over the stove. It is going to be delicious. The next thing we're going to make is a sausage and peppers. Now, I buy these sausages over at Sprouts just because they're fresh. They don't have any nitrites in them. I can't really eat any kind of sausage or bacon that has, anything cured in it. It pretty much gives me a headache right away. So I've just got 3 of these sausages. It's just for my husband and I. To this, I'm going to be putting in about 1 cup of red and a few green peppers right over the top. And I'm also going to be putting in about 1 cup of onions, chopped onions. So these are sweet peppers. I'm just going to be putting some salt and pepper over these. Put a little bit of salt on this, not a lot, just a little. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this in the freezer right like it is. And this is going to be either served over riced cauliflower or some broccoli. Now I just put plastic over mine because I'm going to be cooking it tomorrow night. But if you are going to have this for a couple of weeks, you'll want to put some plastic over it and then cover it with aluminum foil, and you'll want to label it. So the next meal we're going to make is some cheesy cauliflower soup. I'm actually doing more soups this week because we are expecting rain for like the next I don't know, 5 days. So it's kind of chilly and cold out. And all right, we're gonna start off by adding a half a stick of butter. Now I'm making 2 of these just because this is such an easy and delicious dish. I can either throw it in the crock pot for 4 or 5 hours, or I could cook it over the stove, but it's super simple to make. So we're gonna be putting in our butter. We're also gonna be putting in some cream cheese. So I like to get this 1/3 less fat cream cheese, and I'm gonna just put a half a block in each one of these. Then we're gonna put in a 1.5 cups of heavy cream. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm gonna do 1 broccoli and 1 cauliflower because I think I'm going to be making this twice throughout the week. So I have the cauliflower soup, and yes, on Friday I'm going to be doing the broccoli soup. All right, so we're going to put in some heavy whipping cream. This is a half of a cup. I'm going to be putting in a cup of chicken broth. Now, I actually don't have any chicken broth, believe it or not. I was going to cook up a chicken, but I don't need the chicken this week. So let me show you the easiest way that I'm going to make my chicken broth. So I'm just going to be pouring a cup of water into each one of these. And then I'm going to add 2 chicken bouillon cubes. I don't do this very often, but you know, gotta do what you gotta do. Now, when all this is cooked up in the crock pot, I'm actually going to be taking this and, you know, probably using my immersion blender to make sure that it's all put together. So I'm gonna take about a half of a head of cauliflower. I'm gonna need some of this cauliflower for another meal. And I'm gonna take some of this broccoli. I think I'm going to save a little bit of this broccoli for tomorrow because we'll be using that with our Italian peppers. Now we're going to put in a little bit of salt and pepper. I like to put the cheese in so it cooks with the soup. So let's go ahead and add some sharp cheddar. Again, I'm just going to use a big old handful. I think this would be about a cup. So a healthy handful of cheese in each one of them. And you know what? I'm gonna add a little garlic powder to mine just because I do like that flavor. I don't know, it just makes everything so good. All right, now we're gonna tie it up and put it to bed. Put it in our freezer. Now, since these are all for this next week, I'm not gonna be using my thing that gets the air out. I should have labeled these first, but that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and label them now. So this is the broccoli soup. And this is the cauliflower soup. So Tuesday night's dinner is really easy. I'm gonna have a spaghetti squash casserole, which is basically like a imitation spaghetti with the squash. But I wanna just bake this in the oven Tuesday morning. So I'm gonna set this aside. And then all we're gonna do is put our meat and our sauce together. And I'm gonna throw it in the freezer because I just want it all ready when I make my sauce. I'll just take it out the night before. So I'm gonna put a couple of scoops of ground beef in here. Then I'm gonna put my whole jar of sauce in. And I'm gonna freeze it just like this. I'm just gonna label it spaghetti sauce so I know that this is for Tuesday. So the next meal that we're gonna make is a beef and cheddar cauliflower bake. Now this is gonna be really simple to do, and let me show you how I make this one. I'm gonna start off by spraying both of my containers that this is going into. And what I'm gonna do is cut the rest of this cauliflower so it's much smaller pieces. Now, any of these meals can be doubled if you want to have more or less or what have you. I mean, that's completely up to you. Now, you could use frozen cauliflower. You could also make this with broccoli if you like. All right, I am going to put in a half a cup of onion. I'm going to put in a cup in each one of these of some ground beef. I'm going to put about a half of a cup of beef broth right over the top of this. You want to make sure that you have some liquid in there so that your cauliflower bakes. Okay, onions, beef. I'm going to put some garlic powder over the top. A little bit of salt and pepper. And I'm going to top this with some cheese. Now I'm going to put plastic over these, but I'm also going to put a lid over them. Just want to make sure they stay nice and fresh. And even though I'll thaw these out the night before in the refrigerator, I will put these into a cold oven just because they're in glass. 2 beef and cheddar with cauliflower bakes. And last but not least, I'm just going to be getting my my meat and cheese prepared for my hamburger salad. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 cups of hamburger to this. Actually, I'm going to finish it up because there just is a little tiny bit left. I'm going to put my remaining cheese in here. And then when it's the night I'm going to be making my hamburger salad, I'll make my salad, which I'm just going to use a salad mix, make it super simple. And then maybe put a few tomatoes and things like that on it. And this will be all done. Actually, I think I'll put some onions in there because I'll be adding those. About 3/4 of a cup of onions. Actually, on this one, I think I'm going to also add some peppers. I'm going to add a cup of peppers. Some red and some green. So this is my menu for the week. This is my taco soup that I'm just going to throw in the refrigerator for tonight. I've got some Italian sausage and peppers. I was able to have some extra onions, so I just put those in a glass jar. I've got my hamburger salad topping all prepared. I've got some cauliflower soup. I've got 2 separate dishes of a beef and cauliflower bake. Those were really delicious. I've got all my sauce and everything together for my spaghetti squash. I'll cut my spaghetti squash and bake it that morning. I've got some broccoli cheddar soup, and I've got a big bag of peppers that's left over that I can use for chilies and all kinds of things. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video on a great way to do healthy freezer meals to make your, dieting easy for the whole week. If you're a busy person and you work and you say, oh gosh, I just can't do this, it's too much work. You know what? Devote an hour or 2, maybe 3 on a Saturday or Sunday if you have the time. Prep for your whole week or the next 2 weeks, and you'll see it's going to make it a lot easier when you come home from work or you come home from going out for the day or whatever it is you do, that you'll be able to stay on your diet more easily. And this is also going to save a ton of money. So I'm going to calculate how many meals I got out of this, and then I'm going to put that in my description. But like I said, I probably spent about $75 on all the items to make my breakfast and my dinners. For lunch, I'm going to be having a protein shake. That's just my goal throughout the week. I want to have a really good, successful weight loss this next week. And so that's my plan. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Make sure to join that challenge that we're doing, the weight loss challenge that's going through the end of June. I personally have a goal of 27 pounds that I'd like to lose to get to my 100-pound weight loss goal. And you set up whatever kind of weight loss goal you have in mind as well. So I will see you next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye.